What is going on with real estate in Puerto Rico in 2024? Well, my friends, it depends on who you ask. I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm going to show you two articles. One that says prices are going to go up, and one that says that prices are going to go down because volume has been going down. So it just depends on who you ask. The real estate markets in Puerto Rico are very fragmented into different areas. So it depends on where you want to buy real estate in Puerto Rico as well. So what do you do? Who do you believe? What is the prognosis for real estate in 2024 and how do we go about buying real estate in Puerto Rico? Well, I'm going to tell you all about it in this video, so stay tuned.
Shut up and sit down.
This is the Retirement Mentality channel. Just in case you're new here, I'm Jeff, and what we talk about on this channel is how to achieve financial independence, how to retire early, how to invest in real estate, and basically retiring early through investing in real estate is my main focus. So if those are things that are interesting to you, you are in the right place. We talk a lot about Puerto Rico on this channel because I bought a house in Puerto Rico. I don't just read articles and tell you what it could be like to buy a house in Puerto Rico. I actually did it. So I talk a lot about my experience and I keep my eye on the market there. So I get lots and lots of questions about buying in Puerto Rico, and it's been a little while since I've done a video on what I think the markets are going to do there, how real estate is doing it. So those are the things we're going to talk about in this video. Let's start out by looking at two different articles. One of them that says prices are going up and one that says prices are going down. I am a positive person with a positive outlook, so we'll start with the negative one and then we'll move on to the positive one, and then we'll keep the video in the positive direction. How about that? Okay, I'll put this article on the screen over here as I look down at my notes here to read the article. But this says, this article is from June of 2023, so it's about 6 months old. It's January 2024 right now. So this article is referencing an article that was published on May 29th of 2023. It says, an article published on May 29th in this place from the Office of the Commissioner of Financial Institutions of Puerto Rico had data that stated there was an 11% drop in housing sales from the same period in 2022, from the first half of the year. However, our analytics at Red Atlas, you can look up Red Atlas if you want to see who they are, but they're a data company, portray a grimmer reality challenging this projection. It says they use artificial intelligence to process diverse data sets and offer valuable insights. Our analysis reveals that there was a 40.5% plunge in transaction volume from the first quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2023. So for the whole year of 2022, transactions were down 40%. And that is in contrast with that Office of Commissioner of Financial Institutions, 11% report decline. So they're saying this Commission of Financial Institutions reported a decline of 11%, when in reality, their artificial intelligence thinks it was 40% decline. And they anticipate the situation getting even worse for the rest of 23, and they projected a drop of 63.4% from 2023 versus 2022. And it goes on to say, our data also signals a decrease in the average transaction price. That's what we're most concerned about. We don't really care how many properties have sold. We're more concerned about the price of those properties. It says, pointing to a devaluation in housing prices, a 20.4% decline is observed from the first quarter of 2021 to the first quarter of 2023, with a forecasted decrease of another almost 20% in the second quarter of 2023. This is, again, contrary to that Office of Commissions of whoever, who implied there would be a 2% rise in prices. Okay, so that was 2023 data. They were predicting what was going to happen in 2023, that prices were going to go significantly down. And I don't think we saw that in most of the Puerto Rican real estate markets. Again, the markets are fragmented, and you can pull out places like Dorado or Palmas or Rincon and compare them to places like Utuado or San Juan and these other places. So this is on an average over the whole island. So it doesn't paint a perfect picture, but it shows you overall what was going on in Puerto Rico last year. So now let's look at somebody who thinks that prices are going to continue to go up and who's actually in the market. This is from Christie's Real Estate Puerto Rico, and they have a really good article. I'll link to both of these articles down below, from the Red Atlas article and this article from Christie, so you guys can read them if you want to get some more information. This one has a lot of information. It's a really good article. So I'm going to put it on the screen over here. And I'm going to skip down almost to the bottom of the article where it says our 2024 analysis. It says, as we move into 2024, the Puerto Rican housing market is expected to continue its upward trend in home prices, supported by a blend of local markets, dynamic, and broader economic factors. They go on to talk about these economic factors, how many cash transactions there have been. Mortgage rates are going to trend down in 2024, and they go into some more information here. The article also has an outlook for the next 10 years, so their next decade outlook says investors and homeowners can anticipate opportunities such as rising property values and increased rental demand. However, challenges may arise in the form of potential regulatory changes or natural disasters affecting property insurance rates. So, what they're saying is they feel property prices and values are going to continue to increase unless the government changes things, if they get rid of tax incentives, or if there's another natural disaster and it causes insurance prices to go through the roof. Insurance prices in Puerto Rico are a lot lower than they are in Florida. I have properties in both locations, and our property insurance in Puerto Rico is very inexpensive compared to what it is in Florida. Okay, that's what other people think. So what do I think? What are my predictions? Well, I think real estate in Puerto Rico is the same as it is everywhere. As I said, there's fragmented parts of the population in Puerto Rico and the real estate markets. You have a lot of the expat communities, or some people don't like to call them expats. They like to call them mainlanders. We're all Americans, but people who move from the mainland are typically called expats who move to Puerto Rico. I get a lot of grief on my channel, so I like to just specify that. Anyway, you have your Dorados, you have your Palmas del Mars, you have your Rincones, you have places where people from the mainland tend to congregate, in San Juan as well. And so those places have increased demand, and you have less people leaving there, and so you have less inventory. And all those places have continued to see prices going up, and I think 2024 will continue to see that. The markets have been slower in Puerto Rico, the same as they have everywhere, because of the higher interest rates, because of the uncertainty in the economy. So I think as we get into this election year, people might be sort of sitting on the sidelines a little bit, but I don't see prices coming down in any of the sort of tourist areas or big expat areas. We're going to continue to see increased prices in those areas. And contrary to that, Puerto Rico does continue to see an overall decrease in population, mainly from Puerto Ricans who are moving to Florida and to other places. So in some of the more rural areas or more economically depressed places, you are seeing more people coming out of those areas, and you could see prices coming down in some of those smaller, more rural places. Like I said, it's just like everywhere. If it's a tourist area with a great view and a beach, prices are going to go up. If it's in the middle of nowhere and it's got a depressed economy and things aren't going so well, you might see prices going down. So it just depends on what kind of market you think you want to be in. The truth is, Puerto Rico is not a cheap place to live. It's not some third world island that's been undiscovered and it's a secret, and you can go down there and snatch up really cheap deals and buy a 25-cent mango and live on the beach for $0. It's just not true. The cost of living in Puerto Rico is pretty high. I would say it's probably a little bit higher than what it is in Florida. It's cheaper than when I lived in St. Thomas, but it's more expensive than Florida. So it's not a cheap place to live. You're not going to go down there and just live like a king on $25,000 a year. That's not the place. That's not what Puerto Rico is. So if that's your idea, like it's not super cheap. I think overall housing prices, you can get housing cheaper than you could get in the States, but day-to-day cost of living is a little bit higher than I think it is in Florida. And another thing is that buying property in Puerto Rico is difficult. There is a little bit of a barrier to entry just in the difficulty of buying real estate in Puerto Rico. I'm speaking in generalities here. There are some, but in general, buyer's agents don't exist. If you want a buyer's agent, you may have to hire one out of your own pocket. And Americans, for the most part, just aren't used to doing real estate transactions that way, where they have to pay a buyer's agent. And people think the MLS doesn't exist in Puerto Rico. The MLS does exist, but a lot of the agents in Puerto Rico just aren't licensed as realtors. They don't go through the licensing process, and they just sell real estate as real estate agents. And so they don't have access to the MLS, and a lot of agents don't put their properties into the MLS because they don't want to pay a buyer's agent. And buyer's agents don't exist because they're not getting paid by seller's agents. The listing agents just want to keep the whole commission. That's kind of how the process works. Is it worth it to pay a buyer's agent? I don't know. It sort of depends on how skilled you are at buying real estate and doing your own due diligence and finding comps and that sort of thing. I could probably break this out into its own video. If you want more information on that, if you want me to do a whole video on that, leave me a comment down below. And this is a good spot to say also, a lot of I look at my statistics, and most of the people who view my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So consider subscribing if you're getting any value out of this video. It really helps me out and I appreciate it. So I'll say also, if you're looking in more of the expat type areas, the Dorados and the Palmases, those markets are gonna act a little bit more like an American market. You may have more buyer's agents, you may have more licensed real estate agents. They may be putting more information into the MLS. So it might be a little easier to buy and sell in those markets. If you're getting out into the rural areas, you may have less of that and it may be more difficult to buy and it may be more beneficial to you to hire a buyer's agent. So those are things to consider as far as working with agents. Okay, so that's sort of my thoughts on what's happening generally in the market and how the real estate market in Puerto Rico is going. So let's talk a little bit about how to buy real estate in Puerto Rico. You know, I've done quite a few videos on this topic, and so I get a lot of questions on this topic. And you know, it's like in life, all things sort of start as a dream, and so you come up with this dream. I want to move to Puerto Rico, or I want to buy an Airbnb in Puerto Rico, or I want to buy a second home in Puerto Rico. So you start to dream about it, and then you get on YouTube and you start watching some videos, and you may come across me or somebody else, and you start getting a little bit of information. And so the first question that I usually get is, Jeff, where do we even start with this whole process? So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to decide, you know, where you want to be on the island. You've got to get on the internet and do your research and look at different areas and figure out, do I want to be in one of these expat communities? Do I want to be in the middle of nowhere? Do I want to be on a mountain? Do I want to be on a beach? Do I want to be in the middle of nowhere? Do I want to have a farm and grow bananas? You know, you got to figure out sort of what is the dream and where do you think that dream is going to happen, and then do some research on the different areas. I wouldn't just spend your first 6 months looking at houses and trying to find the perfect house. You got to figure out where you need to be on the island. And then once you can narrow that down to maybe 3 of your top 3 places, then it's time to go to Puerto Rico and go look at those places in person. You'll find that not everything is as it seems. And I think you really only need, I would say, 2 or 3 days in a location to get the vibe of the location, figure out if you like the area, figure out if you like the beaches or the town or the mountain or whatever it is that's attracting you to that idea. You can go rent an Airbnb or a hotel and stay there for just a couple days and really get a good sense. I feel like when you go to do this, like looking for a place to live or invest, you can really get a pretty good sense of what the area is like in just a couple of days. This will also be determined by your budget. So, you know, if you want to live in an expat community and you think Dorado looks beautiful, well, if you don't have $5 million, it's not going to be an option for you. And if you love Palmas, but you don't have $1 million, it might not be an option for you. You know, if you're looking somewhere like Rincon, maybe you can get into something for $500,000. If you want to be in San Juan and have a condo, maybe you can get into something for like $250,000. So your budget is going to really dictate which one of those areas you're going to be able to get into. And if you just want to be surrounded by the real Puerto Rico vibe and be in the jungle somewhere, well, then your money is going to go a lot farther. Speaking of prices, by the way, 5 million, 1 million, 500, 300, like those are house prices, not how much money you need in the bank. So I'm talking about the price of houses. That's kind of your average entry level into some of those neighborhoods. Okay, so once you've done this and you've narrowed it down to your top 3 places, you've gone to the island, you've visited, you've crossed off 2 of them, and you've zeroed in on the place you want to live or invest. Okay, now is the time where you zero in and you spend your time online looking at properties and trying to find a perfect property. So there's 2 main places you can go to look for properties. You can go to clasificadosonline.com, and I'll put a link down below for that. And you can go to Point to Homes is another good one. I'll put a link down there at the bottom. Those are 2 good websites that you can kind of start looking around and see what's available in Puerto Rico. Like, you can look at the whole island that way. If you're going to zero in on an area, you may be able to find a specific real estate company that has a website that focuses on those areas. So obviously I can't name every website, but you can narrow it down and start looking at houses that way. And so now I'll just jump into some of my top tips for what you need to do once you found the perfect house, you're getting ready to buy a property in Puerto Rico. Hot tip number 1 is get a really good lawyer, and they need to be bilingual. Even if you speak Spanish, I would still try to get a bilingual lawyer. When we got the contract from the listing agent for the house that we bought, it was all in Spanish. My wife is from Spain, and you know, she still didn't understand we've bought and sold a lot of houses and we know the terminology, but there were some legalese things in the contract that just she was a little bit uncomfortable with. So we had our contract translated into English and Spanish. It would have one line of Spanish and then one line of English and then one line of Spanish and then one line of English. So we could tell that it wasn't just like a whole contract in English and a whole contract in Spanish. It was line by line, and it made it very easy for us to understand the contract and know that it was translated line by line through the contract. So that's a very important thing. And a lot of people ask me, Jeff, who was your lawyer? Let me get in contact with them. Well, you know what? You guys ruined it. Maybe not you guys, but the previous guys from one of my previous videos ruined it. And I sent her a lot of people who wanted to talk to her and ask her a lot of questions, and they wasted a lot of her time. And she said, please don't send me any more referrals. So I'm not going to be giving out any referrals in this video. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to do your own legwork and find a really good attorney that you're comfortable with. Hot tip number 2 is you need a really good home inspector. I've never bought a house like all made out of concrete walls, concrete ceiling, concrete floors, concrete countertops, like everything's concrete. And it was just a little bit out of my wheelhouse. So I would pay the money, get any inspections, electric. You might need to get multiple inspections. You might need to get electrical inspection. You might need to get plumbing inspection. You might need to get a structural inspection, plus a general home inspection. Like, pay the money and get whatever inspections you need to make you feel comfortable with the property, because these houses are built a little bit different, and they're not stick built houses. And a lot of them were built a long time ago. A lot of them have been through hurricanes and Maria and all these things. So get the inspections done to try to figure out what problems you may be encountering in the future. And you're not going to find them all. We had some roof issues and some hot water issues. We had issues we didn't find. Even with getting all the inspections done, things are still going to come up. But the more you can front load into peace of mind, the better it's going to be for you. And you're going to say, Jeff, who is your home inspector? And I can't find her information, so I can't even give you her information either. Hot tip number 3 is to do a little bit of legwork to figure out if the property is legal. There's a lot of properties in Puerto Rico that don't have legal boundaries, and the paperwork's not done correctly, and they've been in a family for 100 years, and they might be selling a parcel, but it hasn't actually been split off and been surveyed and done correctly. So your attorney is somebody that can do this for you, but she's not going to do it on 50 different properties. So you can learn how to do this yourself by going to the CRIM website. It's kind of like the property appraiser's website of Puerto Rico, and you can sort of look up legal descriptions and see boundaries. And I learned how to do this myself. I could break this again out into another video. Leave me a comment down below if this is something that you're interested in. But figure out how to do that. It'll save you a lot of time. You find the perfect property, and you might start making negotiations and working with real estate agents, then come to find out that it doesn't have the proper paperwork, and you wasted all that time. So it's one of the first things I would do if I found a property that I really liked. I would check the legal side of the paperwork and see if it's even worth pursuing. And if it looks fishy or it doesn't quite look right, just skip it, cross it off, and move on. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of time. Hot tip number 4 is to be proactive. Don't wait for people to call you back. If they say you're going to call you in 10 minutes, wait 11 minutes and then call them back. If they say they're going to call you by the end of the day, call them back before the end of the day. If they say they're going to call you tomorrow, call them back if you don't hear from them by noon. It's island time, and people are slow to get back to you, and time kills all deals. It kills all deals in Puerto Rico, in Florida, and Texas. The biggest thing that kills real estate deals is time. So you've got to keep things moving forward, and you've got to be proactive. If an inspector doesn't show up, just get on the phone and call another inspector. You think you're being nice by giving them extra time, and you're not. They may never show up. Or, if a real estate agent doesn't show up, call another real estate agent. Just be proactive, and if somebody doesn't do the right thing, skip them and get somebody else. I'll give you a quick personal story here. When you negotiate the price up front in Puerto Rico before you sign the contract. So we had negotiated a price and agreed on a price with the listing agent. We didn't have a buyer's agent because I know pretty much what I'm doing, because being a real estate agent and investing in real estate for a long time, I felt I could do it on my own. So I negotiated with the listing agent. We got a price agreed upon, and then the contract wasn't coming. The contract wasn't coming. I kept saying, where's the contract? Where's the contract? Where's the contract? She wasn't returning my phone calls. I was getting very nervous. I didn't know what was happening. So I finally just decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to just move forward. So I got a home inspector, and I called the real estate agent. I said, look, I need you to give me the keys, I need you to meet the home inspector at the house, because I'm getting my inspections rolling, because we got to get this thing closed. And it was actually my home inspector, when she met with the real estate agent at the property, and I had already told the inspector what was going on. The inspector told the real estate agent, she said, you know what? This is unethical what you're doing, not getting the contract signed. It turns out she was trying to get a higher price, and so she was dragging her feet and she was stalling. And my home inspector told her, she said, look, this is unethical, not to mention it's just not the right thing to do. And she actually is the one that got my real estate agent off her ass and got the contract into my hands. So by me moving forward and just going to the next step, even without waiting for that, I figured if it cost me a couple $100 to get this inspection done, but it gets the wheels rolling, it was worth it. And it turned out to be a good decision. Okay, hot tip number 5 is basically just have all of your ducks in a row. Have your money ready to go. Have all your paperwork ready to go. If you're working with a lender, have all your paperwork together at the very beginning, and don't be the one that stalls things, because as I said, time kills all deals, and you've got to kind of know what to expect. Do your homework, watch videos like mine, and read some of these articles that I've attached, and be sure you know how the process works so that you're not the one causing the delays, and then things will go smoothly. Because once the contract is signed and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, things can go pretty fast. I think it took us less than 2 weeks to get from signed contract to keys in my hand. So it can go pretty quick. The signing, the closing is a whole nother, just done way differently. The buyer and the seller are together. I could do a whole separate video on that as well. So I hope this video was helpful. If it is, let me mention here quickly, I noticed in the analytics that a lot of you who watch the videos aren't subscribed to the channel. I'm really trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so consider subscribing to the channel if you like this, and leave me some comments down below if you have more questions or something to add to this, because your ideas and questions give me great ideas on future videos to do, and I love to hear what else you need to know. So leave me comments down there. Let me know what you want to see in any future videos, and smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to see a super long video on everything you need to know about buying real estate in Puerto Rico, go watch this video. It's like 3 years old, and it's one of my first videos, and I'm a little bit out of focus and a little bit stiffer than I am now. I'm still not quite too loose, but it's a really good video. It's like 30 minutes long. It's the long version of this video, and it'll give you more information, and we'll see you in the next video.